How's everybody doing today? See who trickles in on this one. Now we're going up against a lot of other shows right now. As you can see, I'm by myself, which is not typical for two hoes. So we're going to be going one hoe today, but that's okay. Unfortunately, you might notice that uninspired. He's fallen to the cat scratch fever. He's a little under the weather, so we're going to be like I said, we're going to be going solo today. But I have a wonderful guest. David Worth. He's been in the film production industry for he's now retired, but he was in the film production industry for decades. He's worked with some of the best, from Jean-Claude Van Damme to Eric Roberts. He's worked with he worked under, I should say, Clint Eastwood when Clint was the director. Cynthia Rothrock, director of Kickboxer. He's cinematographer for Bloodsport and many other films, but those are two of my favorites to talk about. And we're going to be bringing him in right now. And here he is, the man, the myth, the legend himself, David Worth. How you
Yeah,
doing, David?
how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We got some people trickling in. Norman Barud is here. One of our biggest supporters for this channel. Oh, there we go. A little bit more centered now. How are you doing today, David?
I'm hanging in. I'm fine.
I'm so glad you did this. I had reached out to you and you got back to me like immediately. It was awesome, and we spoke plenty of times now through email. And you were actually in the chat for our Kickboxer discussion about 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, and that we'll get to that eventually. But I think the best place to start in any interview is how you got into the industry, your early career. So if you want to maybe run us through your earliest times, like your earliest films. I know that we had when I was going through your IMDb, I came across one that I thought was kind of funny. Adultery for Fun and Profit. So you can talk about that one if you like, or you could just skip that one. That's that either way.
My life is an open book at IMDb. Yeah, I was at UCLA in the film department. This is way back in the '60s, and I got to my senior year, and they wanted me to do some 5-minute film. I'd already been working in the industry, so that seemed a little stupid to me. Eventually, I dropped out, bought an 8 millimeter camera and a little hand wound editor, and began to really seriously get into learning filmmaking. I've shot thousands and thousands of hours of film, black and white and color, analyzed it on the handheld viewer, took it apart, put it back together, and basically taught myself cinematography, editing, black and white, color, uh, quick cutting, and eventually they gave me the chutzpah to go out and start hustling work, and I started hustling small jobs, small commercials, small little shoots. Eventually, I did some adult industry films, like I did Adultery for Fun and Profit and things like that. And eventually, I got into regular filmmaking.
I actually have we have some slides here. Be popping them up. This is generally just pictures I pilfered from various points of your career. Guessing that this one down in the left hand corner here is probably the closest one to the era you're talking about. Uh, so, but I'm gonna pop these in as we go along. But
Oh,
yeah.
that gives me inspiration.
Yeah, it's actually pretty common. You hear a lot of times that people, as they're coming up through the industry, especially, as you said, you're self-made. Basically, you taught yourself the craft. But to get work, you kind of have to go the adult film route. It has the most openings for, no pun intended, the most openings for uh, people to get work.
I was totally unknown, so I just took whatever I could get, and that's what I could get.
But yeah, eventually you would move on to the let's call it the big dance, the Hollywood. You'd start working under people such as Clint Eastwood. You did a lot of you were the director of photography for him. And I know there's a lot of people out there that would love to hear about what it's like to work with Clint Eastwood. So if you have any fun stories.
That was the high point of my career, actually. That was just fantastic. Clint surprised me because he worked faster than I did, and I was the independent guy working out of the back of a Econoline van trying to get a day's work done. And he just kicked ass and took names all day. And that was thrilling for me to work with him. He was amazing, very organized. He'd come in the morning say, we're going to do this, 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 and this. The thing that I brought to Clint Eastwood was I had studied Stanley Kubrick's work before that, before I did Clint, especially Clockwork Orange, and I discovered that he was building all of his lighting into the sets and locations. This was a huge revolution for me, revelation, and a revolution, because that's what I brought to Clint. I built all the lighting into the sets wherever I was, whether it was a circus tent or a bar or a bedroom. And as a result, we came in 2.5 weeks under schedule on my first union, my first big studio film. So that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's like when you go with oop, hold on, getting a little feedback here. Let me just fix that. Sorry. When you work with somebody like Clint Eastwood, you're gonna basically end up, you know, learning a lot. The guy is as legendary as they come. So um you worked on two films with him. Which let me there was Bronco Billy and what was the other one? Any Which Way You Can, right? Or is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Um, which of those two, since you obviously worked with him the first time, was it harder to be new under him, like the first time? Like, was there like almost like an awestruckness to it, or did you feel like more pressure when you came back? Like, obviously, because you were asked to come back. So did you feel more pressure the first time or the second time? Just curious about that.
The first time, but there was really no pressure because we were very well prepared. Clint saw an action realized, and this goes back to the real reason I worked with Clint was Sandra Locke. I worked with Sandra Locke on Death Game. She loved my cinematography because I did it in 13 days and brought out her skin tone. And she just was in my corner, and she went off and did Outlaw Josie Wilson Clint, started dropping my name to him, and eventually I got to him. I did an off-road motorcycle film, and I called Sandra after they had done the gauntlet and said, "Gee, I loved seeing you up there with him 50-50. You just held your own. You were fantastic." She said, "Yeah, but he had a big fight with his cinematographer." I said, "Why?" He said, "He wouldn't shoot by campfire light." I said, "You got to be kidding." I said, "I just shot a whole film by campfire light and lantern light." And she asked me the question that changed my life. She said, "You wouldn't have a reel of that you could drop off for Clint to see, would you?" Well, I didn't, but I got that together very fast and dropped it off. And a few weeks later, I got a call. Clint wants to see you in his office. I went in to see him. "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Eastwood." "Call me Clint." "Fine, Clint." Um, and that was it. We hit it off right away. He tried to get me on Escape from Alcatraz, but that didn't work. And the union didn't want anyone who hadn't come up through the union ranks. So I just hung in, and eventually we got together on Bronco Billy.
After you worked with uh Clint, you moved on to what I'm guessing. I mean, this is just conjecture on my but it seems like you have a passion for Asian and martial arts film. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
did
you
not,
you what?
it came my way, so I took it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm incorrect on that one. But you did end up doing more of that. You worked with Jean-Claude Van Damme next, and specifically one of the most famous martial arts films. Let me pull it up here. In You were the director of cinematography and photography for Bloodsport, which is one of the most famous of all time martial arts films. And of course, you were the director on Kickboxer, which we covered 2 weeks ago. And I personally, I prefer Kickboxer. That's just me. Um, but a lot of people prefer Bloodsport. What can you tell us about these films? What can you tell us about? I know that um, a lot of the cinematography for Kickboxer was done. Sorry, a lot of the filming for Kickboxer was done overseas, so I'm sure there was a lot of fun stories about that.
It was all done over. Both those films were all done out of Hong Kong. Kickboxer was Hong Kong back, and Bloodsport was all in Hong Kong. Leonardo was the director of Bloodsport. We shot 240,000 feet of film on that. And again, I had already, because of my Kubrickian influence, I had pre-lit the Kumite. So I could go in there with 3 cameras and shoot 3 cameras wide, 3 cameras tight, handheld on the mat, etc. Highlights of slow motion. We averaged 70 setups a day for 2 weeks. I had a high of 93 setups. I thought I'd never break it. But yeah, we kicked ass and took names on Bloodsport.
And how about for Kickboxer? Was there any interesting situations with the filming there? Because that was in Thailand. So,
It was all in Hong Kong. We went to Thailand and shot second unit. All of the film.
oh, okay. So just on when you needed to go. Okay. So,
Yes, we went there. I went there in pre-production, shot a lot of the backgrounds, and then we brought it all back to Hong Kong because that was where Charles Wang and Salon Films had their strength. But yeah, it's just the magic of filmmaking. That was a terrific experience, being able to work with JCVG. I was concerned because I saw, I worked with Clint for a year and he never raised his voice. And here I am doing Bloodsport and Kickboxer with Van Damme. And Van Damme is going, "You son of a bitch, where's my this, where's my that?" I said, "What is this?" I had he hasn't even done a movie yet, and he's screaming at everyone. I figured it out. It was because of his diet and his exercise. It was diet
oh,
to get that wonderful cut, that body that was the muscles from Brussels. So I excused his attitude after that
hmm.
because that was very necessary, that body. He was a joy to work with.
One thing that I know that there's a lot of footage that was it's been lost to time almost with Kickboxer. There's scenes that were cut short. They're hard to come by. Is there any parts to the film that you wish would have made the final cut that didn't, or anything like that? Or
I thought it was pretty close. I mean, there are people tell me there are scenes that are missing and all that. It's mainly with the brother in the hospital, a couple of other things. But no, no, no. I think that the choices were very good. And I love that film. I love watching it.
I that's one of those ones I come back to at least probably once every year or two. I don't repeat films as much as I used to when I was younger because it's just accessibility nowadays is insane. But like I have that one and I often come back to it because I really enjoy it. Uh
Yeah, that is nice to hear. Thank you.
as for so to go from one side of the gender spectrum, so to say, to the other, you've also worked with Cynthia Rothrock, who I've always said she has a very uh, similar career path to Jean-Claude Van Damme. Martial artist, got into martial arts films, and then eventually worked into like more like regular action films, a lot of B-rolls, stuff like that. But she has a really big following. A lot of people love her, and I would love to hear about maybe what she was like on set working with her.
She was the best, absolutely the best. Underscore it! Exclamation mark! Drop the mic. The best. She's out there in Indonesia with no craft service in the hot sun and the heat, fighting, falling down, doing all that. Never a word of complaint. She was just the best. Um, I was happy to work with her. I loved working with her. I would work with her again anytime. She and Richard Norton were dynamite people, just dynamite. Richard Norton's the best actor in martial arts.
I'll have to I'll have to take your word on that. There's a lot of names out there when it comes to martial arts films, but I'll take your word on it. You've seen it up close, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I loved her movies. I mean, first of all, she's a 10. She's gorgeous, you know, but she also kicked a lot of ass and it was cool. She was kind of ahead of her time. Like I think she would fit right now in like where Hollywood was going and she was doing that, you know,
Yeah.
20 plus 20, 30 years ago. So to see like there's a few of them, but she was kind of like the trailblazer for female
Well, she
martial arts films.
in Hong Kong where they treat people like, teaching disposable cups. So she's a tough,
Mm.
no nonsense lady. I love working with her. Brilliant.
Um, let's see what next. I'm trying to keep it in order of your career as best I can, so that way we're not jumping around too much. But that's just kind of the way these interviews go sometimes. So Warrior of the Lost World has kind of become like a cult classic. Very similar to Mad Max kind of style. And but I think it looks a lot better. I'm not shocked by that, being that you came up through a cinematographer. Generally, cinematographers who become directors, their films look amazing comparatively to someone who maybe came up in a different side of the. But the one thing, what was it like working within such like a small budget and still making it look as good as it was? Was there like a lot of recycling of sets, recycling of props from other similar films? Yeah.
Well, it was a small film. It was under
Yeah,
$1 million.
yeah.
Rome in 1983. But the thrill of being in Rome and working internationally was amazing. That was the amazing thing about that film is I had done two Clint Eastwood movies and the phone didn't ring, so I was home trying to figure out what to do. I had a treatment that I was calling a return, and I was calling around trying to get people to listen to my treatment. I got Sandy Howard on the phone. He listened and he said, "There's a pause." He said, "Call a friend of mine, Ed Sir Louis." So I called Ed and I gave him my pitch. He paused. He said, "How would you like to go to Rome and direct that film?" This is on a Wednesday. I went into his office on a Thursday, signed a deal, got my check. On Friday, I was on a plane, and on Saturday, I was in Rome. Fastest production ever. From a phone call on Wednesday to being in Rome on Saturday. Great, great, great time. So I loved it. That was a special film.
So you've this is a something I don't even written down. You've filmed in Italy, you've filmed in Hong Kong. You said, is there like a favorite location that you had to film? Like, is there like one that stands out? Like, this was your number one place.
Well, because of the food and the atmosphere and the people, would be Rome.
Okay.
Just walking around that city and taking a trip to Venice and seeing all those ancient buildings and working with the great craftsmen. That was a thrill. But Hong Kong was also a thrill. The crews there were astounding. Charles Wang and Salon Films were astounding. Those are the top three I've ever worked with. Clint Eastwood's group in Malpaso, the group in Israel that were outstanding, the group in Hong Kong, and then the group in Italy. Those are my favorite places.
I did have a slide here. I just want to show everybody. This was uninspired. Had helped me put together some of these slides. This was the DVD cover for Warrior: The Lost World. You could see some of the in there. You could see some of the actual pictures from. You can see how it looks really good, but it has a very similar look to like a Mad Max. There was a lot of films at that time that were going with that kind of a post-apocalyptica
Yes,
concept for this.
yes, and I fit right into that.
Let me see what
Uh,
else.
it's amazing to have a pitch to a guy on the phone on Wednesday and be in Rome on Saturday the same week. That was an amazing time.
Yeah, that's a quick turnaround to be
But this,
basically, called and be on a plane that fast. That's
I just happened to get him when he needed it.
sometimes that's the best time. I mean, that this entire channel, the channel that we're, my YouTube channel is built on, striking at the exact right time. I met somebody that is a big YouTuber and it turned into me doing this now. And so sometimes it's just the timing and that's all that matters.
It is exactly right, young man, just the timing.
So a little bit later in your career, so obviously you had your bigger films around that time. And then this is what I often like to bring up with people is because I find that there's a lot of filmmakers end up going this route, and sometimes it gets kind of poo-pooed on. It's not as glitzy and glamorous as the the big movie theaters. But you did a number of smaller budget films on DVD and or VHS at the time, would be DVD later, and TV films such as I have a couple of pictures here. Hold on. Where is it? Here, this is a one. Shark Attack 2 and 3, which means you must have loved doing the first one if you came back for the third one, the second one for the third one. And Alien Apocalypse, films like that.
And I
Um,
just
yeah, this is first of all, I love this image right here with the surfboard in the shark's mouth. That's fantastic.
yeah,
The
those were films that were done. The Shark Attack 2 was done mostly in South Africa, and then
wow,
Shark Attack was all in Bulgaria.
Bulgaria? Wow, you were all over the place. So what
But
oh,
any
sorry, go ahead.
movie,
One
anyone like
um what is it what is the different feel for you doing more of a film like that where you kind of know that you're going into it, it's going to be a small, smaller film probably seen by less people versus something like Kickboxer. Do you change your approach at all? Do you like look at it like, oh, I could be a little bit more creative, do some more fun, or like, be not as conservative, not as safe with this, or is it you just treat it the exact same way?
I treat every film exactly the same. Doesn't matter if I work with Dennis Hopper or with the Shark or with Clint Eastwood or Jean Claude or with Cynthia. Every film I treat exactly the same. I take plenty of time to prep it. I build the lighting into the sets. I work with the actors. I work with the crew. I kick ass and take names all day, and we get the job done. Some are better than others. Some are big hits. Some get big releases, and some don't. That's their problem.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, well, that's why something becomes a cult classic. Sometimes, it doesn't get appreciated until 5, 10 years down the road. And that's there's no those are just as important to, you know, the film industry as the big blockbuster. That's like to have you got not every movie is going to be a $250 million budget insane thing. You're going to you fill it out with smaller films. But
My,
so,
my first
oh,
Eastwood film, Bronco Billy, was done for under $5 million.
there you
That's
go.
a Clint Eastwood film. The
Yeah, I
second
mean
one is
this
done
it was
for under
also
under 50.
yeah, that was
So
also before budgets blew up like crazy. I mean, now budgets are insane.
it's stupid. That's all I can say. You have $1 million
Um,
for a fucking film. Give me a break.
this might actually be a good time ask this question. So obviously you've worked as director of photography, cinematography, smaller, editor, stuff like that. And then you've obviously also been full on, you know, king of the castle, director in charge of the whole shebang. Do you are some people prefer being in that seat, the big seat, having all the power, and some people prefer more focus to really be uh do their craft the best they can, and in your case cinematography. Do which did you prefer? Did you prefer being the more focused one, or did you prefer being the head honcho, so to say?
Well, I kind of fell into it because of doing the Van Damme films, the Eastwood films. Then when it came to doing Cynthia Rockwell's film, Lady Dragon, I was just going there to direct. But the crew was so bad, I had to take on the cinematography just to get the job done. So by the time I got through that, I thought it was going to kill me, but it didn't. It made me stronger. And for Lady Dragon 2, I also did the cinematography and directing. And for the rest of my career, I was a cinematographer and director. I loved directing, but I would usually be able to manage the cinematography too because I built all my lighting into the sets in pre-production, so I could just go in there and zip right through it.
Yeah, well, so yeah, so it seems like you like to then you really like to be able to have a hand in every kind of what was going on, it seems then. Which is
Yeah,
which is pretty common. I think that, like, there's I often equate directors and like head coaches of football teams. There's you have the ones that are very like, oh, I let my coordinators do all the work and I just sit back and I get the credit. And then you have the ones that call the plays and also like do all that stuff. And they it seems like you were more the latter of those. Uh,
yeah. Well, I would storyboard my films during pre-production just to get my mind on it, and I was very organized.
let's see, what else do I have here? You've worked with Bruce Campbell,
The
who
best.
is um, a a bit of a wild card sometimes. He's an interesting guy from what I've heard. I've never met him personally, but I've heard he's an interesting guy to work with and meet. And do you have any stories about work? Because I believe one of these was his directorial debut, if I recall correctly. I don't remember which one it was, but
The screaming brain.
okay, Scream Man with the Screaming Brain was his directorial debut. So
Mhm.
what was it
Um,
like? Obviously, you worked with Clint Eastwood, and then down the line, you're working under Bruce Campbell in as a director. What's any fun stories about that?
no, we started on the first one, Alien Apocalypse, was with another director, and Bruce and I just hit it off on that. I was just a cinematographer. He liked my work, and then when we did Man with the Screaming Brain, working with him, he had organized that shoot so beautifully. He was wearing a prosthetic. He had to go in at 4 in the morning and get that done every day.
Let me see if I
And
can find a picture of that prosthetic while you we'll get that on there.
he had that. He and the AD had gone through the entire script to figure out how long it would take to do every shot. They had it really organized. That was brilliant, a brilliant film to work on.
Here I have it right here. It's a still frame from the trailer. Oh, actually, I don't know. Hold on, it's actually trying to play the trailer on me. Nope, nope. Okay, never mind about that. I'll pull it up in a minute. But yes, he everybody that I've ever talked to that met him said he's a very interesting person, and so it's good to hear that he's like super, like the way he organizes stuff. It's that's really cool. I always like, because I'm a person who likes to stay very organized. When I hear some other people do that, it makes me happy. Whoops.
That's the only way I like to work is with lots of organization, and Bruce was a dean of that.
Uh, let's see what else we got here. Um,
Now,
um,
Dreaming Brain.
oh, here we go. So your critically your most successful film is Borrowed Time 3 with Eric Roberts. You won awards at Tokyo Film Festival, New York International Film Festival, Los Angeles Motion Picture Awards, and the most importantly, the New Jersey Film Awards, because that's where I'm from. So I consider that the most important of all of them. That was, hold on, let me pull this up here, right here. Also called Borrowed Time Falling Apart, if I have that correct, because it was a little unclear sometimes on the IMDb, but it won, I believe 10 awards, and can you tell us a little bit about that, how that felt to get such acclaim for a film after, like, because this was one of your last films on your IMDb, so you had been in the industry for a long time before you had such an
Well,
acclaimed film like that.
what to do was knocking on my door.
No.
Yes, this film has a very interesting history. Alan Delaby, the writer director, was a guy who was a martial artist and did nunchucks for years on television and everything. He contacted me about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, and he was just shooting little films in the alleyways of France, trying to figure out what to do. I loved his spirit, and I coached him and mentored him. And a few years later, he called me and asked me to co-direct Borrowed Time 2 with him, which was a thrill to see how far he'd come. He's a brilliant young man. He's done Nosferatu. He's done just a lot of films. He is kicking ass and taking names. He's on the cover of a lot of magazines, does interviews. A real dynamo of a young man. Very proud of him, proud of his work.
If you had to, hold on, I was about to sneeze. If you had to select one of your works throughout your career, whether it be, for your cinematography or your directorial, which one would you want to be the one you're remembered for?
That's a hard choice. That is a hard choice. I have a lot of favorites. There's Bronco Billy,
Mhm.
Clint. There's Kickboxer. There's Bloodsport. There's Lady Dragon. There's The Prophet's Game with Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, I didn't have a slide for that one. We could talk about that a little bit after this if you like.
Yeah, all of them are unique in their own way. So it's very hard for me to choose my favorite. I would have to choose Bronco Billy because that was the first one with Clint and the first one with Hollywood and getting in the union and all that. And we kicked ass, really, really kicked major ass on that one. Came in 2.5 weeks under schedule.
Wow. That's you guys got to give some lessons to the modern guys, like the modern crews that are going, 50 million over budget and having to go back for 80% reshoots and all this crap that's going on nowadays with these films.
They shouldn't even be allowed in the business if that's what they know how to do. Fuck
It's
'em.
it's a money pit nowadays. That's what I always say. Um, but you did mention Prophet's Game with Dennis Hopper. That was one I couldn't really find a good picture of for a slide. But if you what's it like working with Dennis Hopper? Dennis Hopper is another legend that you've worked with. I didn't even think to mention him earlier, but
Yes, well, that just kind of dropped into my lap. I was I sent my resume to someone, and it went to their personal email instead of their office email, so they got it. And this is a lady producer. She called me. She wanted to meet with me because she was doing this Dennis Hopper film, and the cinematographer and the director quit because she wouldn't give them 10 weeks of post production or 12 or whatever they needed. I said, I'll do both jobs in half the time. So she signed me on. I was cinematographer and director on that. Shot the film in 18, 20 days, posted it, had it being had my editor working on it while I was shooting. A week after production, I had a cut film. That was a great time working with Dennis. He was amazing. He just kicked ass all day long.
So yeah, so obviously you've worked with, so many big names. I'm gonna for this question, I'm gonna eliminate Clint Eastwood. But among like Bruce Campbell, like I said, Cynthia, JCVD, and now Dennis Hopper. Is there any one actor that you would just like, if they came to you right now, or like this is gonna be the last hurrah? Who do you want to be the star of this film? If you had to pick like one of the ones you've worked with, who would it be?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I'm eliminating Clint Eastwood because I have a feeling that was the answer. So we're gonna take him out of the equation. We're gonna go with whoever number two is.
Maybe JCVD. He's had an up and down career. I've had an up and down career. We'd see if we could right the ship here.
He's definitely had an interesting roller coaster of a career. I think it's because he came out of the gate really hot with some really great films, obviously ones you were involved with, and then he had a dip because it's just that's generally what happens with action stars as the field changes, and then they can sometimes make a comeback, other times they can't. He was able to pull it through a little bit later, specifically when he came back, and it was like, actually they all kind of did it when the Expendables came out. All the old action stars were like, we're back, guys, and he got to be in the second one, which is pretty cool. But I think that would be really awesome if you if in this theoretical hypothetical situation you got to come back, maybe do like, you know him being the I know that they've done later kickboxers, but a different, like a Kickboxer
I
7
hate
or whatever it is.
the sequels to Bloodsport and Kickboxers that these people did. They were stupid, they were dumb, they were overblown.
Mhm.
I wrote a sequel to the original Kickboxer with the same cast. I'm hoping to do next year in Bangkok with the. We just don't even pay attention to those other sequels. We just do our own.
It's the old soft reboot. That's what they call it, the old soft reboot. That would be awesome if you could get that done. Because yeah, I agree. A lot of the because there was, I think, three sequels that originally came out to the first Kickboxer, and then they did like Retaliation something later on, and those weren't that great either. Like they were better than the original sequels, but still not good. Um, they didn't even the original sequels didn't even have like, Jean-Claude Van Damme like got killed off screen. It's like the worst way to try and do do a sequel.
Mm. Anyway,
But yeah,
I have a sequel that's already in the works for
mm,
Bangkok. Playing
well,
We'll see if it happens.
oh, there you go. You heard it here, people. There's a possible Kickboxer sequel, true Kickboxer sequel coming out. Not this crap. This is the true sequel.
Real cast, including Hasselhoff, Anderson the Third, Rochelle Oshana. Everyone is there. JCVD, Dennis Chan. Everyone is there.
It's awesome. So I guess actually that kind of leads me into one more question, and we'll start to like wrap it up. We got through a lot, almost pretty much everything quick. It's um your stance on current Hollywood. You've kind of already touched on it as we went along, but like what what do you see as the main problems? Because there's a lot of them right now. Hollywood is down, and films are bombing left and right. You got studios that are just completely out of their minds. But what, from your perspective as an insider, someone who was in the industry for 50 plus films that you did, uh, what are the biggest problems? The and the things that, if you think it can be fixed.
Spend less money. Make the film for passion, not for money. That's the difference in all those kickboxing sequels. They were just made for money. Ours was made with passion. Same with Bloodsport. Make the film because you need to make it, because you want to make it, because you have to make it. not for the dollars. That would help. I don't think anyone will follow that advice, but that would be my advice.
Yeah. There's definitely a issue. Actually, I do have super chat here from Norman Barud. I'm not sure if you've watched The Acolyte, the latest Star Wars TV show, but it kind of goes along with what we just said. If you have, do you have an opinion on it? If you haven't, that's fine. It's
I have not watched it. I don't watch much television. If I do, it's for football or mixed martial arts or something like that. I'm usually working on a script or putting together a promo reel or something like that for a project.
that's okay. You have missed nothing but frustration.
Yeah,
Uh but yeah, so I we got through everything, so I don't want to keep you for too much longer. Unfortunately, like I said, my co-host wasn't able to be here today. But if you have any final thoughts, or what we like to say, the plug your shit section, but you kind of already did that, so we'll skip that. The final little remarks or anything like that.
well, the industry has changed so much. I believe that everyone is a filmmaker nowadays because they all have this.
Yep.
This is a filmmaking genius fucking tool.
You got people just walking around,
Take
just
it out
recording
and make a
everything they
movie.
see.
Steven Soderbergh does. Come on, guys. Meet anyone. Get your friends together on the weekend and do something if you're a filmmaker. Don't say, I have to wait for a budget. I have to wait for this. I have to wait for that. Bullshit. Take the iPhone and go make a movie.
I mean, yeah, I mean, some of people have cameras in their pockets that are better than the giant ones that you worked with years ago. It's like these enormous things that now you have, like it's a 6-inch little thing you can hold, and it's a better camera. It's amazing.
Better camera, better sound, better editing, better everything. It's just amazing. I love it because I used to have to make films with 35 millimeter film and 100,000 feet of raw stock processing and printing. Now you don't have any of that. It's all gone. These are
Yeah,
very
I couldn't imagine having to go through just reels and reels of stuff. That must have been. I worked with digital projectors for years, and occasionally when I would see like a film projector, I'd be like, it was like I was like, how does this thing even work? I don't even understand it.
I used to have to hold 10 reels of 35 millimeter picture, 10 reels of 35 millimeter sound, 10 reels of 35 millimeter music up to a projection booth or a screening.
Oof, I feel bad for your lower back. That was
And the film was awful because it was scratched and faded and coffee had been spilled on it. It was a mess. Now, not all that crap is gone. You can just come into a editing room a couple of weeks after shooting and have a pristine projection, beautiful image. I am very, very into the new digital age. I think it's fantastic. If you have a brain, you can make a movie.
Actually, one of my mods, Melvin Deeply, just said they actually have film festivals that are specifically for films made on phones. That's actually an interesting concept. I have to go check that out. I have to go look into that. I didn't realize that that was a thing. But um, yeah, maybe that's you film the next Kickboxer on exclusively on iPhone. You could be like, this is like, okay, we'll keep the budget down. We'll just go with the iPhone.
Nobody knows the difference because if as long as it has a 6K or 8K when it's projected, it'll look fantastic. Did you see the film a few years ago? There was what was that little film that was all done on iPhone 5?
Uh, I have to look up. I can look it up real quick. Let's see. Uh, film.
It was from 2002.
There's actually a few. There's actually quite a few of them. Night fishing, unsane. There's quite a few actually. Uh, but yeah, truth be told, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell if it was filmed on that. Like
It was
majority of
by
you know,
Sean Baker, I believe.
as long as the thing that's key, and I know that you can tell people this, David. The thing that's key to filming is lighting. Lighting is like the most important thing because if you have the lighting bad, it doesn't matter how good your camera is.
Yes, and you don't need anyone anymore because you can turn the ISO up to 5,000 or whatever and
Mhm.
just show natural locations and available light, and it's gorgeous. God's light is the best light. Use it.
Actually, let me see if I could pull it up because I remember saying it. Let me see if I could find it in the. It will be toward the middle here. I also have the Kickboxer. Oh, here, I found it. Some of the cinematography that you did for Kickboxer here, like that is just beautiful right there. That is a great shot. That must have been that
Available light.
must have been difficult because that I'm assuming that had a very small window that you could get that shot in.
Yeah. Got up at 4 in the morning, got ready, and got it.
Hmm. Was that a one? Oh, I just moved. Sorry, I was trying to remove the image. Um,
And the film that Sean Baker did with the
mm,
transgender community, what's it called?
Sean Baker, you said?
Uh, 2015.
I'll look it up. It's the best part about doing this is I could just Tangerine.
That's it. Tangerine was shot on two iPhone 5s in 2 weeks in Hollywood.
Hmm,
It's a revolutionary film.
I'll take a
Fantastic.
look into that.
They put stuck an anamorphic lens on the iPhone and shot beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film. Two transgender
Um,
actors. It
mm,
was a real amazing film for me to see. That proved to me that you don't need anything but the will to make a film, and you can make one Sundance and one a bunch of stuff. Great film.
well, that was the advent of they've been trying to go that route for decades. I mean, the advent of the Steadicam was amazing to get away from rolling gimbals and all these things, and dollies, get away from these large like stationary cameras and be able to move in like smaller locations. It was only natural that we would eventually move on to even smaller, like obviously handheld camcorders never were able to do it that way back, in the 80s and 90s. They never had the look, but now the cameras are everything is it's pretty much universal across the board.
You need is this. Go
Mhm.
make a good movie.
And
Jesus.
that is the stamp of approval from David Worth, the man. He's telling you just go make a goddamn movie. Just
Yeah.
do it with passion and
Good
lights, like natural lighting and passion.
location, available light, good young actors, and kick some ass. Come on, I want to see it.
That's what, if there's no more of a ringing endorsement out there, I don't know what there is. But that is oh, sorry, go ahead.
If you have a movie to see that you show me, just contact me at my email address, davidworthfilm@gmail.com.
There you
Send
go.
me a fucking movie. I want to look at it. Come on. Thank you.
We do have a question from Amelia Bedelia, who listened to me on the last stream I was on, and she's in my chat. Good. I'm glad to see you, Amelia. Um, if you had to choose between directing or cinematography, which would you choose?
Directing.
Directing. I would guess that would usually be the case.
I do both. I do both whenever no matter what.
Yeah, but like I would assume that if you had to choose between being the head honcho or one of the, one of the subordinates, you're always going to go with that. You want to be the don. You don't want to be the muscle. um, if yeah, that's all I really have in terms of questions. We got through this way quicker than I thought we were going to be honest. Usually we have two hosts, so uh, you know, it slows it down a little bit when you have two hosts. When it's just one, you go a little bit quicker. So yeah, I guess we'll just we'll close it out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David. This was really fun. It's great to talk to the director of one of my favorite martial arts films of all time. And if maybe we'll see you in the chat again soon because I know that we're probably going to do Bloodsport at some point. I would love to cover some Cynthia Rothrock stuff. She was awesome. And so thank you for being on.
Well, my pleasure, young man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your time. And once again, thank you to the chat. I know that there was a lot of streams going on right now with a lot of people that our fans follow. So this will probably get watched more afterwards. It'll be up on my channel for probably a day or two, and then I'll move it over to the T.U.H.O.S. Let me put that up here. Where is my banner?
I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Yeah, if anybody actually before we go, if anybody's got a quick question. Norman, Melvin, any of you? We'll just we'll give them a minute. But basically, I had actually a question. So how to frame this? Do you because I don't know how to word this exactly. One of the things that's made Bloodsport kind of not as it's still legendary, but there's a kind of a aura over it now because of Frank Dukes pretty much being outed as a fraud. Have you ever was there anything that you ever because I'm sure that I know he was very involved with the film. Was there any point where you felt like this guy seems a little off?
He was there. He would raise an opinion once in a while. We'd say, "We've got it, Frank. Thank you."
Yeah, he's pretty much been outed as a guy who made up a bunch of stuff, but still made for a great movie, which is fine. He probably actually had a career in writing martial arts movies instead of trying to make up his his life story. But let's see, are Amelia Bedelia, are women the death of cinema? Considering the fact how he just spoke about Cynthia Rothrock, I don't think he's going to think that. But David, if you want to take that one.
That question, Amelia Bedelia. What does that question mean? I don't know.
She's just joking around. She's just like, but anyway. So yeah, there's I guess we'll. Oh, go ahead.
That are out there doing great work. Great work.
What is your opinion of Steven Seagal? That's a question we have right there.
Chicken.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Do you have a bucket I can be sick in?
Oh, I am the same way. I've always said that guy lives off of the one good film that he ever made, and that was Under Siege. That's the one good movie he ever made. Oh man, he's the opposite of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He's the opposite of everything. Not a fan.
Well, I guess we will call it for today. Thank you, chat. Thank you, David Worth. And I'll use the outro that we normally have, the T.U.H.O.S outro, and then it's been fun, everybody.
Thank you.